evening, everyone, and welcome. It's so great to see so many students here tonight. And although we have a very limited amount of time, we're so excited to engage in this special opportunity with you all. Dr. Goodall began her work in Tanzania in 1960, and today she travels over 300 days a year, oftentimes speaking with young people such as yourself who are making a difference in the world. And we're so excited to have her here, and she's been an amazing inspiration in my life, as I'm sure she is in many of yours. So I'm so honored to introduce to you our student panel and very special guest, Dr. Goodall.
Pictures are horrible. People, I think.
Well, the members of the student panel, would you like to introduce yourselves?
I'm Christian Kebbel. I'm a senior. Ever since taking an honors course here at Rollins, my sophomore year, called Honors Food and Culture, learning about the perils of the industrial system of agriculture. I've been a passionate advocate for local, small-scale, seasonal, and sustainable methods of farming, particularly methods of urban and suburban agriculture. I've been a sustainability coordinator at Rollins since 2009. I'm also a member of a number of different environmental and wildlife activist groups, like the Environmental Defense Fund, the Center for Biological Diversity, Defenders of Wildlife, and the Wilderness Society. In association with those groups, I sign petitions and write letters to our nation's leaders in Congress and the State Department, taking action to help safeguard the health of humans, people, and the planet. There are a number of people in this room who are more deserving to be on this panel than me, in my opinion, but I am incredibly grateful to be on this panel with such a distinguished visionary and to be able to participate in this discussion with all of you.
I'm Colleen Wachowski. I'm a first-year student, and I am a strong supporter of animal rights. Since I was 10 years old, I've been a vegetarian. I've been a member of Defenders of Wildlife and the National Resources Defense Council. It's something that's always been really important to me in my life, and I'm honored to be here in your presence and hear such an inspiration. And I wish for my life
what you've been up to and to see how we can continue this mission. And the focus, or the question I think we want to answer, is how can we use knowledge, compassion, and action, which are 3 tenets of Roots and Shoots, to help develop and orient ourselves as responsible leaders and global citizens, which is part of the Rollins mission. And starting to think about knowledge and compassion, Dr. Goodall, you travel over New Jersey this year, and I'm wondering, what are some of the biggest issues that you've seen or have seen in the communities that you touch? And what are people's reactions? What are the positives and negatives going on in communities?
Well, when you think that these are communities all over the world, there's rather different perceptions. But one thing I did find, which is what led to Roots and Shoots, is that young people of your age, particularly, and maybe a little younger, and some young people just out in the grown-up world for the first time, I found many of them didn't seem to have that much hope that during our lifetimes we could sort out the mess that we've made on the planet. And I found young people who were depressed a lot. I found young people who were angry and sometimes violent. And I found most of them were just apathetic. And it didn't seem to matter what they did because it wouldn't make any difference. And that's what they said, all of them. We feel this way because we feel older generations have compromised our future and there's nothing we can do about it. So that's what led to Roots and Shoots, because we have compromised the future, but it's not true, there's nothing that we can do about it. And I get very frustrated. I go and hear environmentalists, and the message is all doom and gloom, and they're likening this planet to a big ship, and there's a lookout up there, seeing rocks ahead, and shouting, beware, danger. And everyone tries to pull on the wheel, but it's too late, because the momentum of the big ship is such that it's going to have a shipwreck. And if that's the message that's coming out to young people, then they will give up hope, because what's the point? It's too late. And if we all give up hope, then it will be hopeless. So that's the main mission that I have in all this travel, is giving young people hope and empowering them to roll up their sleeves and do something about it. By the way, the reason I chose to sit up here is not that I think it doesn't look good, it looks as if I'm trying to sit higher than you. I wish we could all be up here. I want to be able to see everybody in the audience, make sure you don't go to sleep. Hopefully you're not blowing bubble gum. I mean, I can even see some of you right at the back, so beware. So that's why I'm up here, and I'm not trying to look above you, but sorry about that. And by the way, the last thing I'll say about Roots and Shoots is that we are growing through partnership. So you're involved in a lot of other programs and things. We encourage you to join us so that we all act together and we have one voice. And it's a growing family around the world. And in case I don't get a chance to say this later in my lecture, the one thing I love best is a young man who was with me in 1991 when we began Roots and Shoots in Tanzania, and now he's grown up, he's got his own business, he's very successful, and I asked him what Roots and Shoots meant to him, and he said, I love it that anywhere I go in the world, even if I know nobody, if there's a group of Roots and Shoots, I found my family. So we're growing the family of man, whether we're partnering with various wildlife organizations or Free the Children or World Hunger or Oxfam or whatever it is, if we get all the young people acting together with one voice, that's going to make the difference.
Dr. Goodall, when I was speaking with Bethany and Colleen prior to this discussion, we all acknowledged that we've struggled with the slipperiness of indifference, but if not ourselves, with trying to bring in and engage other people. And on the other side of the spectrum, there's been a growing and developing new science of geoengineering, where some people, and like when I was in a class last semester about this, this is one thing I found disheartening. We have apathy on one end, and then engineering of the world on the other end, where it seems like some people might come to the conclusion that we don't have get out the mess that we've created and change our habits, but rather we can continue in our ways and take carbon out of the environment, take carbon out of the atmosphere with certain ships and things like that. So what do you think of the other end of the spectrum?
This fact that science is going to rescue us, we don't have to change.
Exactly.
Well, it's sometimes you can do a short-term change like that, but in the long term, none of it's going to work unless we learn to behave differently, unless we have a new way of thinking. Albert Einstein said that years ago. He said, for a better future, we've got to think differently and in a new way. And so we've got to stop relying on petroleum products, because the petroleum is going to run out one day, and if we continue to use it the way we are now and search for more and more and more, the destruction to the natural environment will be terrible. And if our numbers could continue to grow and grow and grow, and if more and more environment is destroyed, and if more and more species disappear, no amount of science can get us out of that mess. It just will be beyond the hope of science or anything else if we let it get to that stage. So it's up to individual action. That's what I think.
I feel like along those lines, you talk about the academic attitudes, and I think a lot of people in this room are already very passionate about certain issues and already are involved. And one of the things that's often disheartening is whether it's your peers or your family or members of the community that are experiencing those sort of athletic attitudes, and what are some of the ways that you can inspire other people to take action as well and motivate them to take action when you're already so passionate about those issues?
Without kind of cramming it down our throats. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. It doesn't work. And worst of all is holier than thou. You're doing this wrong. I mean, you want to be like me, I'm doing it right. That's terrible. And another thing is listening to people. So if they disagree with you, that's what my mother taught me when I was a child. She said, if you disagree with what somebody's saying, the first thing you have to do is listen to them. And maybe when you listen to them, you'll see, I understand why they're saying that. Now I see how perhaps we can reach some compromise so that both of us can move forward. And stories, I found, are the best way of, stories and example are the best way of motivating other people. And it's also tremendously important that whatever you're doing, or whatever cause, that in the doing of it you have fun. If you don't have fun, if you can't laugh, if you can't have a good time with people who are thinking like you, whatever it is that you're belonging to will collapse and fail. That's what I really firmly believe. So in our Roots and Shoots program, we always try to have terrific fun festivals and bring people together and share the songs and food and clothes of different cultures.
What do you think that we as individuals can do to make values of activism and Roots and Shoots more popular within the general society? Not so that we can think like a small group of passionate people and maybe spread that message around to everyone and get everyone to actually really care and see what we see.
We are going to have to find a way of sharing that information in a way that's captivating and inspiring, and that people just think, hey, I see now, gosh, I could do that. And there's a very simple little thing that if
size of my arm, and it was such an inspiring experience.
Right now, so I need to pick your brains.
Okay.
The last book I wrote is Hope for Animals in Their World, and it got longer and longer and longer. In fact, the Australian edition has new stories about Australia. The Chinese the same, they wouldn't fit in the American one. And the plant section had to more or less go. And I was really upset because the botanists had been so generous in sharing information, really excited, to give plants some notoriety, not just giant pandas and things. And so I thought, well, I better put this together and write a nice short book and just put a bit more information in that. And it was going to be about plants rescued from the brink of extinction. But the plants had a different idea altogether. And I swear they put their little stringy roots down into my brain and said, come on, no, we want you to write about us and honor us much more than you are now. And, create in people a feeling for plants that they have, many of them have animals. And so it's gone into a section on the history of agriculture and farming and plantations. And the chapter I'm working on right now is about urban farming and school gardens and just exactly what you're talking about, the importance of local, eat local, and the slow food movement, and all those other good things which we all can do, even on window boxes, even inside the window, in a little jar you can grow things like alfalfa, mustard, and cress we used to grow as a child, things like that, and you can eat it. It's great.
Everyone, and we'd love to hear some of your passions and what you've been doing, but also what you hope to continue to do, and what are some of your greatest passions. So,
Is there anyone who has to share with Brett?
Well, I have a question to start with. You mentioned earlier that there are people who seem hopeless and very angry at the world. I'll confess, sometimes I do get a little hopeless, and I wonder how do you cultivate or maintain that idea that there is always hope?
Well, my hope, I've got these 4 reasons for hope, which I've written about again and again, so it's a bit boring right now. But, there is the human brain, and that is one avenue. But the human brain isn't just about technology. The human brain is dictating what we do each day. And, so we're beginning to understand that we need to act a bit differently. So the human brain is one. The resilience of nature, very important. You can have a totally destroyed ecosystem, and with time, sometimes help, you can see it restored. Not exactly the same as it was before, of course, but at least supporting life and becoming once again beautiful. And animals, as I wrote about in the last book, if any of you haven't read it, it is the most inspirational. I met so many inspirational people. Every chapter is an inspiration because it's about something that was hopeless that people turned around with hard work and effort. And it sometimes cost a lot of money. And finally, there's the energy and commitment of young people all around the world. And I find that when young people, A, understand the problems around them, and B, and most important, are empowered to take action, that's what's getting people involved. It's the case, roll up your sleeves and get out there, pull the goo out of the stream. Go and learn how to talk to the people upstream who are polluting. Write to your legislators and say, I've talked to them and they don't get it. Can you enforce the law? And, so if you do it locally, there's a face to the problem. So it's fine to buy a piece of rainforest far away, which hopefully will conserve that area, but that doesn't get you to meet the hunters who may be pushed out, and the villagers living around in poverty, who will be resentful if you take this land away. So it's learning about what goes on around you. And then the indomitable human spirit, people who tackle seemingly impossible tasks and they don't give up and they won't give up and they inspire others. If you take all these 4 very simplistic reasons together, it gives them hope in a way. So,
Brendan?
Dr. Goodall, I would love to hear about some of those inspirational people that you have worked with around the world. Are there some people that maybe we wouldn't have
specific individuals, because you can go onto the internet and find a project. I think the main thing about all of this is that you don't want to get involved in anything that you don't actually care about. And it's no good trying to persuade somebody who really doesn't like animals to help you doing something to make lives better for animals, because they'll never put their heart into it. I mean, you might get them to like animals a bit better, but the thing is to get people involved in what they're passionate about. And the heroes are all around you, that's what I want to say. That all around you there are these inspirational people coping with, terrible physical disabilities that finish me off. And yet there they are out there inspiring people around them. And people who perhaps migrated into the US or into Europe, and they don't have any money, they can't speak the language, and yet somehow they get a little business going, and you go in there maybe to buy a newspaper, and they'll smile at you and you just walk out. If you bother to hear their story and how they overcame a seemingly impossible hurdle, then you become inspired. And they're all around us. That's why you want to pick anyone special. You find your own.
Dr. Goodall, since you mentioned you're writing a book about plants, I had a specific question related to plants. When we talk to people, we see a lot of people that are really concerned about saving plants from extinction, that are on the verge of extinction. But we often fail to kind of recognize that even like plants that we use for daily means like corn and wheat are on the verge of losing their natural diversity, especially with the growth of genetically modified food like Monsanto and stuff like that. And I'm from Nepal, and yesterday I saw it on the news that US aid is actually trying to help the farmers there, but one of the stipulation is you have to accept Monsanto corn. And I was very shocked when I found that out, that the government is supporting stuff like this. What are your views on the rise in genetically modified food and how it's taking away diversity from plants that we actually use in our daily lives?
30 minutes ago, I was writing things I shouldn't repeat about Monsanto. And I keep hearing, I don't know if some of them are true or some of them are rumors. We have roots very strong in Nepal, and I'm shocked to hear that the government is being told that. And that's what's happening. China is standing up against it now. The European Union is beginning to stand up. The first lawsuit that's gone to court, and Monsanto was ruling against, happened in France sometime last year. And of course they appealed, but nevertheless this farmer was able to win his case in the High Court in France. There was a huge pullback in many African countries against Monsanto. And then of course there's the wonderful Vandana Shiva, what she says about Monsanto and biopiracy and increasing seeds and life forms is so shocking. So what I think of it, I think it's awful. And I heard the other day, and I'm trying to find out if it's true, maybe somebody can help me. I heard that Bill Gates was giving several $1 billion to Monsanto. And if that's true, I'm shocked. And if you're interested, anybody, I'll leave a website, which is probably the best arguments against genetically modified food and in support of organic farming.
We're running low on time, so if anyone has like a quick comment or question.
I'd actually be interested if anybody has something they'd like to share quickly of what they're doing specifically with their passion, or what they hope to do with their passion in the future.
Okay, well, I'm a biochemistry major, and for a long time I've been trying to figure out, how can I direct my skills and my passions to help the environment and help educate people. And one of the biggest problems I feel is that people feel so separated from the environment, and you see, oh, this oil spill happened over there, and those poor animals. We don't really see how that affects people and our health and things like that. And so I hope to get involved in environmental toxicology in order to show people that these chemicals that are carcinogens and
they're affecting, like the health of people, and to try to get people to, care and feel a little bit more connected to the environment, because the health of the environment, is our health too. So. That's all.
Certainly, yes. And roots and shoots begins with preschool. We have a lot of preschool groups now, so they're coming up from the bottom as well as down from the top.
And Dr. Goodall, what last words of advice would you have for us to continue your legacy, your mission, well into the future when we leave college and experience so many more responsibilities, work, families? How do we continue our passion for advocacy?
Well, that's part of what I agree will happen with roots and shoots. That when you get, you're out there and you're looking for a job, and I've had young people in TS say, well, I hate McDonald's, but I had to get a job, and I took a job at McDonald's, so I've given up now. I betrayed myself. And that's not necessarily true, because, you may hate what the company does, but the individuals within that company are not lethal. And from within a company, you can actually do some good, and you're not compromising your values. You're really needing to get some money to support your family. And so, I'm hoping that the roots and shoots will provide a support